All right, Sergio, I want to thank you for taking the time to talk to me. It's been it's been an incredible journey because I've seen all of your content on Instagram, and it you challenge me. And so first and foremost, I just want to thank you for actually taking the time to have this conversation because I believe it's a conversation that needs to be had. And so just want to thank you for even agreeing to do this.
Yeah, dude, of course. What was it that you saw on my Instagram that you were like, okay, I need to pay attention?
So there was a couple of things. So the one was, I believe it was the 69% of divorces are initiated by the woman, I think was that one. And I saw it was like 1.9 million things. So it's like it clearly resonated with people. And then the other one was when the woman needs to is basically became the man.
Yeah.
So she was, I think that's at the top. If it's not one of your pinned posts, it's one that's at the top. And I saw that, and there's a lot of women that are being forced, especially if they're a stay-at-home mom or if they're separated and divorced, and now they're forced to raise their kids on their own. Um, it's just a lot of women right now are being forced to play both roles, and I saw that. And the biggest reel was the one where you quoted from Genesis, and we talked about it offline, but you quoted Genesis and you said God put the man to sleep and formed Eve, and then he woke Adam up with Eve, and just how important and women are, because at the end of the day, they challenge us, they confront us, they trigger us, they may stress us out, but at the end of the day, God gave them to us for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, and if you go look at those comments, there's so many guys who are just like so pissy and so upset. And they're constantly just saying, oh, so it's just our responsibility to do it all. And I'm like, you fucking pussies. Yes. Yes, it is. And I'm not trying to, the thing that I'm always getting caught up in is all these guys are like, so we're just going to like not hold her accountable. I'm like, no, we are going to hold her accountable. But the best way to hold her accountable is that you become irrefutable, the best man you could possibly be, so that she has nothing to point her finger at. That's how
Yeah.
you hold somebody accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's really good because there are a lot of men that refuse to take responsibility. I was one of them. I refused to take responsibility for my own actions. I refused to take responsibility for the mistakes that I made. And I made the mistake of not showing up in my marriage. I made the mistake of being emotionally unavailable.
What did
I
that look?
made
What did that look like in your marriage? Like, what did your wife experience? Your ex-wife experience?
So it was largely there was no room for any conflict resolution. We didn't talk about anything, right? And so I sort of just shut down. If there was something that bothered me, if there was something that irritated me, I instead of confronting it the way that I should, I shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't address it, and we were living separate lives, right? She was doing her own thing, she was going in on her own direction, I was going in my own direction, so we weren't even walking in step with each other. And it was incredibly problematic because there wasn't that connection. The love, you didn't feel it, the affection wasn't there. Just to be honest, even the I'm just going to say it this way, even the sex, that was largely absent too. So it translated in so many different areas in the
Yeah.
marriage.
Were you afraid to collide with her? Were you afraid to like fight her?
You know what? There's probably a little bit of that, where it was because growing up in the church, I was a pastor's kid, and so I, from a young age, I was caught up in performance. I was caught up in pleasing people, and as a result of that, I would put the needs of someone else above my own. And so I would suppress my emotions. I would suppress my thoughts. I would suppress my feelings because there's a part of me that doesn't like conflict. But there was also another part where even when I tried to confront it, even when I tried to engage in the conflict resolution, it wasn't there. It was stone face, just nothing. And so I don't think it was necessarily afraid to collide with her. I think it was just I realized that it just wasn't getting anywhere. It
So
wasn't.
would you would try to collide with her and then she would just be stone faced?
Yeah, it was it was really difficult because I would try and express something because as a man, I always wanted to fix things. It was in my nature.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to do it. And I would ask, how are you? And I've learned this word, it means absolutely nothing. So I would ask her how she's doing. I'm fine. I've learned that word means the exact opposite.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if you agree with this, but if a woman says she's fine, most of the time it's a clear sign that she's not. And so there just wasn't communication, and
Why
it
do
then
why do you think she didn't feel safe with you to talk to you?
that's a very good question. I don't think I was fully walking in what it means to be a man and what it means to be a husband. I think that I kind of closed myself off to a certain degree. I think that what I did is I know that I wasn't safe. I know that there were, and I don't even know if there, I think neither one of us really trusted each other. And so I don't think we ever cultivated that. I don't think we ever spent the time cultivating that safety. I don't think we ever spent that time cultivating that trust and that respect. And as a result, it translated into the marriage. And as the guy, I take full responsibility because it's something that I realized that I wasn't providing that for her. I
Yeah.
wasn't a safe space emotionally, spiritually, mentally, even physically. It just wasn't there.
Right. And the reality is, like, if that's the case, you're not mentally available, emotionally available, physically available for yourself. Because we can only create for other people what we can create in ourselves. And this is what I see in a lot of guys. They wonder why they're not having a sex life, and it's because their wife doesn't feel emotionally connected to him because this man's so disconnected from himself. And so he sedates in work, or he sedates in porn or alcohol or drugs or video game. It doesn't really matter. But because he's not emotionally available, she's not emotionally connected, her vagina stays dry pretty much. There's
Yeah.
going to be no sex.
Yeah.
Right. And then the man doesn't want to fight because he's hoping to have sex. And so if he does fight, he's afraid he's going to disrupt it. Yet the fight is the only thing that is actually going to lead to something different.
Yeah. Yeah. It's been, and that's the thing. And it was completely, honestly, I think there was a couple things that I wrestled with. I think I wrestled with my own identity and truly understanding who I was. But I also don't think that and I got married when I was 25. So I know some people, they get married when they're in their early 20s, maybe even late teens. They get happily married, they have kids, they have the white picket fence, they have the dream and everything like that. And here I am getting married at 25. I really didn't know who I was. I think I got married for all the wrong reasons because I thought marriage would fix me. I thought marriage would address some of the issues that I had. And then when I realized that it wasn't going to fix me, when I realized that it wasn't actually doing what I thought it was, I suppressed it all. And I allowed, and here's the other thing that made it really, really difficult is I was in the Bible all the time, reading the word every day, journaling, praying. And on the outside, I looked so spiritual. On the outside, from other people, oh, he looks so righteous. He looks so holy. And inside, I was a mess. And
Well,
in my
that's like
home,
it's a majority of the church, dude.
yeah,
Everybody's fucking full of shit. They
yeah,
hide behind their scriptures, they hide behind their Bible, they hide behind the church because they're afraid to speak the truth. They put on the front when they're in there, and then they go home and then they jerk off in the bathroom while their wife is putting the kids to bed. Like, this shit happens.
yeah. And
And then
that's
go
the
ahead.
thing. That's what it was. And at the end of the day, another problem is there just wasn't that satisfaction or even that fulfillment. And I'm sure there's a lot of marriages that are like that, where there's just not only is there no safety, but there's no fulfillment either.
Mhm.
And that's something that I realized. And yet here I am now, no one ever gets married with the intention of getting divorced. No one ever, I mean, unless you want to get into a prenup and stuff like that, no one ever gets married with the intention of, okay, 15 years later, we're going to get a divorce. And that was a tough pill to swallow for me because now all of a sudden I'm having to reinvent myself. I'm having to look at myself. I'm having to ask myself hard questions and say, okay, what part did I play in the failure of the marriage? What areas did I fall short? How was I one that really didn't? And just to be honest, I know I failed. I know I
Where
failed
did you fail? Like if you were to pick one thing, what was the thing that failed that you're going to take ownership for?
it all centers around it. I would say it centers around safety and truly showing up.
What does
Those are
showing up
probably
look like to you?
early on in the marriage. Early on in the marriage, it was great, but showing up meant actually providing her with the empathy and providing her with care and providing her with love and with compassion. And showing up means, I mean, we can say that it goes to providing. Even early on in the marriage, we were both working, so we never really got into this. I'm the provider, she's the provider. So it was a dual income household, which helped. But I think what it did is I think it fostered some complacency in me. I think it fostered just this lackadaisical attitude where I was able to sort of just skate by. And I don't think I ever really stepped into that sole provider role. We 13 years into the marriage before she quit her job. And then I was the sole provider, but that's 13 years later. And we didn't take our first vacation until we got married in 2008. We didn't take our first vacation until 2019. So
Why?
11 years into our marriage.
Why is that?
The biggest reason was because of just me. I sucked at finances, was horrible at it. I would spend freely. I wouldn't really take, I wasn't financially sound. I wasn't planning for our future. I don't know if I want to say I didn't care, but it wasn't something that really, I don't think it was a priority. And it wasn't until COVID hit, and it frustrated her. It aggravated her. We had numerous disagreements and arguments over it. And it wasn't until COVID hit where we started getting the stimulus checks and then bonuses and commission and tax refund and all these different things, where eventually 13 years into the marriage was when I started paying off the debt that we had and paid off all of our debt and built up a savings, built up a six-figure savings. So we lived comfortable. We were no longer living paycheck to paycheck. And it was great, but I feel like at that point it was, I don't want to say too little too late, but there's a part of me that feels like I showed up too late in the marriage. And at that point,
Hmm.
it was sort of irreparable. There was
Yeah.
too much damage that had been done.
Yeah, a lot of guys stop showing up, right? They completely check out. And that's what I was saying is like most of these divorces don't happen because men cheat. It's because they check out. They
Yeah.
stop taking care of their body. They get fat as fuck, or they get a dad bod and then they make excuses for it. They become spiritually disconnected and disconnected from themselves. So there's no way to even access this emotional connection with their wives because they lack it within themselves, which means they become defensive and irritable. They can't hold space, which means they're always trying to solve because emotions make them uncomfortable. Then we have this whole finance story. And the other thing for you though, right? Like you stopped showing up. It wasn't just financially. Like what else was it? Because you told me off air, right? As you head into a new relationship, you want to make sure that these old things don't follow you and haunt you. Well, what are the old things that you got to get rid of?
So the biggest thing is not suppressing things that may upset me or things that may hurt me or wound me. One of the biggest things that I realized is just being emotionally, it's funny, the very thing, and I'm not blaming my dad for this, and I know you do a reel on this. I'm not blaming my dad for my emotional absence because that's something that I have to take ownership of, and that falls on me. So it comes down to me providing that safe place. I didn't assume the role of, okay, I am going to care for you. I am going to create a space for you to not only be who you are created to be, but a safe space where you can express yourself,
Yeah.
a place where you feel loved, a place where you feel appreciated, a place where you feel valued. And I don't think she ever felt valued. I don't think
Mhm.
I ever created that for her. And I think it translated in a lot of ways. We didn't, here's one of the biggest things. Okay. I'm at a place right now where I say, date your wife. Mark Driscoll, he's a pastor of a church in Arizona, and he says something that hit me. He's like, date your wife or someone else will. And it hit me because I'm like, I stopped dating her and I stopped creating that space for intimacy. And not even just physical intimacy, but emotional intimacy, and really being there for her and allowing her to just kind of settle into big conversation about femininity, but allowing her to just settle into that feminine. And it's a conversation that I hear all the time right now is women want the men to they want them to walk in their masculinity so they can settle into their femininity is what I hear a lot of people saying. And I didn't do that. I
Yeah.
think
Do you have a
I
lot do you
was
have a lot of guy friends?
I do. Yeah, I
Yeah.
do.
Are
I
they like strong male figures or are they pussies?
so early on for most of our marriage, they weren't, right?
Okay.
They weren't. And then I started going to a church right now, and I've been going there for 2 years. And these are guys that are very much they know who they are, and they're your typical working out, hunting, fishing, shooting, drive trucks, drive jeeps, all these different things. They're hard workers, and so now I'm surrounding myself with those type of people, and now I'm surrounding myself with that tribe because I'm recognizing I can't do it on my own, and I need those men around me to challenge me and that whole iron sharpens iron concept. And so now I'm building that community to make sure that what was lacking in my first marriage doesn't translate into my second.
Yeah. What are the qualities of these guys that you are seeing that you want to adopt for yourself? Because here's what I know is like a lot of guys start to hang around other men and they're going to become the byproduct of the people that they hang out with because proximity becomes power and the people that you hang out with, well, you become just like them. So when I look at my friends and the relationships I have, one, they have to be making good money. They have to be doing something in their life that they're producing and creating. Number two, they have to be good dads, right? Be present with their kids. I want to be able to see it, understand that their children are showing up, right? I'm not going to just take their word for it. I actually want to experience it. And then number three, I'm going to look when they're talking, I want to watch how their wives are reacting because
Mhm,
that'll tell me if they're a good husband or not. Because guys like myself, right, who are in sales, like we're really good at manipulating our words to make it appear different. But if you
mhm.
watch a woman when a man's speaking, you can tell everything about their marriage. So what is it about these guys that you're like, okay, I want this from these men so that I can take this into this new relationship? Are you in a relationship right now?
Yes.
Okay, so I can take it into this new relationship and be a better man.
So the biggest thing is there's a multiple levels to that. So number one is all of them are dads. So I watch how they are with their kids. And so I see how they show up for their kids. I see how they're sacrificial. I see how they would just lay down their lives. And I see how they look after them. I see how they nurture them. I see how they care for them. I see how they foster that relationship with their kids. I see it all the time, especially with guys that I go to church with, because that's where a majority of them are. I watch the way that they are with their wives, and you can tell that they love their wives. You watch them the way, like you said, the way that they interact. Show me how a woman responds to a man, and I'll show you everything about the marriage, is essentially what you said. And I watch the respect that the woman has for them. I watch the level of trust, and you can see the trust, you can see the safety, you can see that they are, and not only just that, but you can see that they're happy in their marriages. This starts all the way at the top with the pastor of my church, goes down to some of the ministers, and not only just some of them, they have grandchildren, and I see how they are with their grandchildren, and I see how they truly lead them, and how they guide them, and there you could tell that there's just that safety. You can tell that there's that respect. You can tell that that intimacy is there. And I see it in the faces of the kids. I see it in the faces. And that's something that I want to be. I want to be that man who fosters all of that. I want to be
But
that man.
what are the traits of this man? It's great that you see this,
Yeah.
but what are the traits?
There's a lot of traits that I see. One of them would be, I would say, humility is a huge trait.
Okay.
I would say sacrificial is another trait. I would say another trait is um, the ability to lead. So I don't know what that translate in terms of an actual word. Leadership.
Leadership.
Yeah, I would say leadership. Accountable is a
So
big thing.
let's pause on leadership real quick. How are you leading yourself right now, Stephen, to be the best version of Stephen?
That's a good question. So one of the biggest areas is spiritually. I take ownership of my relationship with God very seriously, and so that's first and foremost.
Okay.
So I make sure that that's the foundation of everything. What I do, taking care of myself physically. So working out, I try and work out 4 to 5 times a week. So taking care of myself physically. Um,
Are you happy with
working
where your body's at right now?
I'm happy with it, but I know that there needs improvement. So
Okay.
there's
So what improvements would you have to take on for you to truly be leading your body?
definitely eating better, because that's a huge thing. So improving my diet, and then
So if
I'm
I were to
cons-
ask you to do this podcast with me with your shirt off, would you feel comfortable?
no,
Why?
there's I don't think there's that confidence that's there. I think that there's confidence is missing. Plus, I
Okay.
just think there's, and especially when it's probably confidence with my body itself, but it's also confidence with just in general, with maybe even who I am as a person and who I am as a man.
So let's pause there for a second, right? Because this is where a lot of guys like miss up. There's an opportunity for you can't lead your wife, you can't lead your kids, you can't lead your teams, your employees if you can't lead yourself. And so spiritually is a big one. But the guys that I work with, right, the guys that I coach, when they come in, they're like, "Well, how do we work on the marriage?" I was like, "Well, we got to work on you. If you build the
Mm,
man, you can change the marriage, right? You change the man, you change the marriage." That's what I keep telling them. I was like, if you just become the best version of you, and we have to figure out what that is, well, then you're going to have the best opportunity to lead your family. So if you feel spiritually fit but physically fat, well, that's an issue. If you feel spiritually fit and physically fit but you're financially in debt, that's a problem. And so we have to look at all of these areas of your life, right? You have to look at your body, your spiritual, right? You have to look at your relationships, and you have to look at your business, your money.
mm,
So
yeah.
like spiritually, you're great. And this is what every man will lead. They're like, this is where I'm doing well. But the only way to actually move the needle is to talk about the shit that we're not doing well in. So if you know you need to eat healthier, what's preventing you from doing it?
Making the decision to do it and actually just doing it. That's just, and I try to do that as well. So I don't eat like crap. But I know that diet is definitely something that is needing. My dad he didn't take care of his body at all. And later on in life, he got diabetes, and he struggled with it for years. And so there is a part of me that focuses in on the diet. There is a part of me that focuses in on working out. But even when they talk about transforming your body, what do they say? They say it's 80% diet, 20% working out is, I think, the percentage. So it's being more mindful of what I put into my body,
Okay.
and allowing myself to be able to recognize what's needed. So that if that touches grocery shopping, that touches frequency of
Yeah.
meals, that touches all of that.
So is it your girlfriend or fiance?
Girlfriend.
Girlfriend. Is she in shape?
Yes, she's very much into working out, works out. I mean, she's of course a single mom too. So there's a part of her that she runs into challenges, so she will work out with the kids. But yeah, and she's very big on diet. She's very big on what you put into your body, making healthy choices, and not allowing yourself to consume stuff that isn't good for you.
Yeah.
And then also working out and really having an active lifestyle.
Okay. Would you say she's more fit than you?
Um, Maybe more athletic, but probably not more fit.
Okay. So is she slightly overweight then?
No, no, she's not.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
not at all.
So she's more athletic, but maybe not in better shape.
Right. Yeah,
Okay.
I would say that. Yeah, that's a good that's probably the best way to understand it.
Yeah. I mean, listen, she's gonna hear this, so you gotta say what you gotta say. But
Right.
here's what I want to tell you. I made a decision this year to just like, you know what? I was in good shape. I wanted to get in great shape. And a lot of the guys that I talk to, they talk about how they're not physically attracted to their wives anymore. I'm not
Mhm.
saying that's you, but I just want to paint a picture for you. And they're always like, well, I wish my wife would get in better shape. I was like, well, then you should get in better shape. Because if you get in better shape, right, it's going to force her to do one of two things. One, she's going to get very insecure and she's going to either start to get in shape, or two, right, she's not going to do it. And then you have a decision to make.
Right. Right.
And if you truly want certainty and confidence in yourself, there's only two independent games that you get to play. That there's no teammates. One is your relationship with God.
Yeah.
Eh, Dude, like you're in full control of that. Two is your body. And if we can't win these two games, then the other two games are fucked.
Yeah.
So we have to nail these two as men.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the biggest key for me. That's the is taking ownership. And that's one of the biggest things that I'm realizing right now is taking ownership of everything. And I think for a lot of guys, I think for a lot of guys, they check out and they don't assume they neglect that ownership. They throw it off to the side. They pretend that it doesn't exist. And that's one thing that I was really good at, taking ownership for. It's funny, right? When you go to interview for a job, they ask you to list all of your strengths. They ask you to list all of your qualifications. They ask you to list all of these different things because that's how you get hired.
Mhm.
People hire based on your strengths, but that doesn't work in the context of relationships. Relationships need both. You especially with the stuff that needs to be fixed, the stuff that may be broken, the stuff that may need to be healed. And so that's the biggest find, we'll say. The biggest find is recognizing that, listen, I need to take ownership of this.
Yeah.
I need to take ownership for the crap in my life that stinks. I need to take ownership of stuff that I've needed to be healed with, making sure that I work out, making sure that I'm financially sound, making sure that I'm eating healthy, making sure that I'm providing that safe space in the relationship, making sure that, and the other thing is making sure that I'm ready. So when the time comes, I'm not, because I don't want to transpose or translate what was in my marriage into the next relationship. I want to actually be the man. I want to be the man that she respects, and I want to be the man that kids would look up to and admire. And that's the type of legacy that I would want to leave.
Yeah. So I think that requires all of us, right? I think that's what every man wants. He wants to be respected by his wife, looked up to by his children, and he has to respect himself.
Mm.
And these are the lies that most men tell themselves. They convince themselves that good is good enough. So I'll talk to guys and they're like, "Yeah, we're having sex, once, every 2 weeks." And I'm like, "Okay, does that work for you?" He's like, "Yeah, it's good." And I go, "Okay, cool. Are you jerking off?" And they're like, they get uncomfortable at this point. They're like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Yeah, are you looking at porn and jerking off?" And they're like, "Yeah." I was like, "So it's not enough." They're like, "Yeah, you're right." I was like, "Well, how many times would you want to have sex?" And they're like, "Yeah, I would like to do it like 2 or 3 times a week." I was like, "Okay, well then why aren't we doing that?" It's because, well, either their wife doesn't feel the emotional connection, so she's disconnected. It's because he doesn't feel confident and certain in himself. There's a lot of these things that start to happen, and it's because this guy starts to tolerate and convince himself that good is okay.
Mm.
And comparison fucks people from two different angles. You look at other people's lives who are amazing, and you're like, "Oh my god, I wish I had that life." And then it's the other way. "Oh, at least I'm not as fat as my fucking fat friend, right? Like I'm not about to have a heart attack. Like I'm good. At least my marriage isn't as bad as this guy. Like they fight all the time. We just fight once a week." And so we have to be able to like just be honest with ourselves about like what do we actually want? Because the fact that you're telling me, right, all of this, which I think it's a dude, just honestly, I think it's amazing that you're willing to just have this open conversation about your fuck ups and the things that you want to change. Like a lot of guys need to hear this. It's one of my missions. And so like one, I want to commend you for it. So nice job. And at the same time, I want to kind of put like a mirror up to you to just show you that there's pieces of you right now that you are still settling. Why?
Your question was, there's places that I'm settling.
Yeah. And my question is why?
I think it comes down to the whole concept of finding worth in myself and confidence. I think confidence is a huge thing. I did another conversation a couple weeks ago with someone else I follow on Instagram, and one of his handles is confidence. And it's so easy to settle when you lack confidence. It's
Yeah.
so easy to settle when you're not self-aware. You're not emotionally aware of who you are. You're not mentally aware. And I think for a lot of men, and especially for me, is there's that confidence that's missing. And I don't I don't know if it can be traced back to as a kid. I wasn't bullied when I was a kid. I wasn't picked on. I didn't have anything like that. I wasn't the most popular kid. I could never talk to a girl in high school as far as asking her out. I was never the type of guy, even post separation and divorce, was never the type of guy that would just go out and sit at a bar and just randomly strike up a conversation with a woman. That's just so I know that there's that part that's missing. I
Mhm.
know it's all centered around being confident in who I am.
Yes.
And I would say, even loving myself. Two things I say, how can I effectively love a woman if I don't love God properly? And if I don't love myself properly?
Okay. So then let me ask you this. What is like confident Steven look like, sound like? What does he do? How much money does he make? Like talk to me about this confident Steven.
Confident Steven I'm already making six figures, but I would say probably twice as much as what I make. So I would say consistency in six figure income.
Okay.
Confident Steven looks like what I'm doing right now.
Okay.
It takes an incredible amount of being vulnerable to have this conversation, to
Okay.
actually put myself out there. So confident Steven begins with taking the mask off and not pretending that everything is okay when everything is not okay. Not admitting that, number one, it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay in that place.
So I want to pause you
And
for a second.
yeah,
The moment that every guy does this, the moment that I ask you about what does confident Steven look like, you spent 1 second on the thing that you need to do, multiple six figures, right? And then you immediately went to what you're doing. And this is what every guy does. I don't want to talk about the stuff that is going to make me confident because then that's going to truly expose me. I want to talk about the stuff that I am doing, which is great,
yeah,
dude. Like I told you, this is great. You're taking the mask off, right? You're being open and honest and vulnerable. That takes a set of balls, right?
yeah.
So I'm glad, I'm proud of you for doing this. My question is, what are we not doing that we know we need to do?
It's a very good question. To be honest, I don't know if anyone's ever held the mirror up and asked that question. What am I not doing? Making a six-figure income is, or a double six-figure income is what I'm making. That's key.
And
Confident Steven
that's that's
is,
that's the illusion of power because that's external.
yeah, yeah,
Because if I strip that away from you, there goes your confidence. That's not confidence.
yeah. So then, you know what, to be honest, I don't even think I really have an understanding of what confidence looks like, if I'm being real. And I
Perfect.
think that's probably why it's difficult to answer the question, because I don't think I've ever understood it, but also ever walked in it. And so it's difficult for me to answer that question because I don't think I ever took the time to define what it would look like in my life. Confidence is A confident Stephen is a healthy Stephen. A confident Stephen is a fit Stephen. A confident Stephen is one that has has a wife who I adore her, she adores me. Confident Stephen is one that has kids that respect him, that is able to leave a legacy. Confident Stephen is one that walks in humility, is one that sacrifices, is one that submits myself to God first, and then recognizes that in that submission, I'm then able to show up. So
Okay.
for me, confidence encompasses all of those things, and it translates everything. And confidence, Stephen, involves working through all of the stuff that I dealt with. That I had a fear of abandonment. Confident Stephen no longer seeks to please people. Confident Stephen no longer puts on a show and puts on a performance because he's afraid to upset the apple cart, because he's afraid of the opinions of other people. Confident Stephen
Even
gives
with
him.
his wife?
Say that again.
Even with his wife?
Oh, especially. Yeah, like, because it's so easy for guys to get caught up in people pleasing, even with their wife. I did it. I was guilty of it for 15 years. And what I did was I masqueraded it, and I paraded it as I'm going to place her needs above my own.
Yeah.
So confidence, Stephen, here's the biggest place where confidence is going to manifest itself. And that is recognizing that I am just as worthy. I have just as much value as other people do, and walking in that, and
Yep.
recognizing that my needs are just as valuable. My wants are just as valuable. My desires are just as valuable. And they're not to be suppressed, they're to be expressed, and walking in that reality.
Yeah. So I thought confidence would have been money. And then I made 7 figures. And then for an entire year, I didn't make any money. And I realized that was the illusion of confidence and power.
Mhm.
I thought confidence would come from awards and accolades and having my colleagues love me and getting the titles and all of it. And then I would get it. And then the next day, that feeling was gone. I thought it would come from me being in great shape, having a six pack, being like in elite physical condition. Wasn't any of those things. Now, did I build confidence in myself by being disciplined and committed to my body? Oh yeah, because you can't take that away from me, right? But when I was doing it for this one reason, when I was doing it because I started to realize like this thing is not mine. I was given a gift. I have stewardship over it. My responsibility is to keep it in shape, take care of it. True confidence for me came, and it's still building, because there's moments where I'm stripping away these old identities, because a lot of my identity is rooted in my value comes from what I do, not just who I am. And so a lot of my certainty and a lot of my belief in myself and true confidence comes in my relationship with God. That's a big piece of it. Yet at the same time, there's also these other things that I have to be in control of. This is why, like, you committing to becoming the most elite version of you in your body, like, quit fucking around with this good, that will build confidence and certainty in yourself like you couldn't believe. Because you want to show yourself real love. You want to love yourself. Most men don't love themselves enough to take care of their bodies. And so they just settle for being overweight. You want to truly love yourself, right? You stay obedient to God. You want to truly love yourself, right? You become the man that your wife wants to follow and your kids look up to, not because that's your intent, just because of the way that you carry yourself, aligned in your values. Because that man, like, nobody can take that away from you. All of it's internal. Confidence comes from something that can't be taken away from you. Outside of that, it's just the illusion of it all.
Mm.
So to create predictable power, you have to understand that you have agency and dominion over parts of your life, your body, your spirituality, your marriage, as a father, and in your business. And until you take full agency and power, or agency and dominion over those 4 areas, you're not going to stand in full confidence and certainty
Mm.
ever. So when you tell me I'm in decent shape and I'm in great shape, I'm like, that. No wonder you don't have the confidence that you want. You haven't taken full agency yet.
Mm.
When it comes to God, yeah, you believe in God, but are you sitting there talking about God to other people? Are you sharing your story? Not in a place of like, oh, I'm here to convert you, but like, hey, this is what God's doing in my life. I want to share some shit. No different than me reading that chapter out of Genesis. People are like, you can't say fucking Jesus in the same sentence. I was like, well, motherfucker, I just did. So you I don't know if you can tell me what I can or can't do. Go fuck yourself. Why? Because I know what God's asking me to do. So there's one thing, right, to take agency and dominion over it and know that you're in control. And then there's the other piece of you doing exactly what you're doing right now and planting a flag and be like, you know what, I'm going to showcase this shit so other people can see it. Because that's your responsibility to do it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what it is. It's planting myself and taking a stand, and it's recognized, and it's taking ownership of myself, taking ownership of my body. And confidence, I would say, is also rooted in, there's an element of character and integrity too. I think to truly walk in confidence, those have to be two things that are needed. And I want confident Stephen is a man that is integrous in every area of his life. Confident Stephen is a man who walks in, he's a man of character, and he's a man who follows the Bible, and he's a man who puts those principles into practice and truly allows, because at the end of the day, I want my relationship with God to lead everything that I do, everything that I say, every place that I go, every decision that I make. I want it to come directly from him. And so it's recognizing that he is the foundation. And that's where confidence, I'm convinced confidence is. You said yourself, confidence is not in seven figures. It's not in the washboard app. All that stuff, I think, is an illusion that men buy into. Is it important? Yes. Does it look good on pictures and on Instagram reels? Of course it does. But at the very essence of it, at the very core of what confidence is, it's knowing who I am in him and recognizing that he is the one who helps me to walk in that confidence. You said dominion, you said authority. That's how we were created. We were created to walk in dominion. We were created to walk in authority. And yet through our own stupidity, through our own ignorance, through our own mistakes, just like what Adam did, he forfeited his dominion and his authority because he gave himself over to something that he shouldn't have. And so for me, it's recognizing that, okay, taking dominion and authority, like you said, begins with myself first, and truly exercising that dominion over myself. And so I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is what keeps men? You asked me a question about confidence, and I answered it in just one simple thing and what it would look like. And then I went back to everything that I was, and that's, what do you think causes men to defend and deflect rather than taking ownership? Because that's exactly what I did in the conversation. When you asked me that question, and it's, we're good at it. We're good at defending and we're good at deflecting because it
it's the fear of being seen. We don't want to get exposed. Because the moment that we're exposed, people get to pass judgment on us. And as humans, we want to be liked. And that's why we will sacrifice truth. And that's why confidence can't exist. Because a man who can't stand in truth and be fully exposed will never have confidence. So when I ask you if you take your shirt off and you'd say no, it means you won't expose yourself. When you say multiple six figures, instead of just telling me how much money you make, you won't expose yourself. Are there parts of me that I won't expose? I can think of one. I'm sure there's more. But what I am committed to is, just like Eminem at the last scene of 8 Mile, I'm going to let you know everything about me so you don't have shit to say about me.
One of my favorite scenes.
So that when people do, I'm like, bro, you're right. You're spot on. Yeah, I was an asshole to my wife. Yes, I was looking at porn. Yeah, I did drink and do drugs way too much. You're right. I was a money whore. Yep, you're right. I saw my clients as commission checks and I fucked that up. Yeah, 100%, dude. I have a hairy back. Yeah, and I had a tribal tattoo and got it covered up because my friends made fun. Like, I don't give a fuck, dude. So I'm going to expose myself about all of it because most men are afraid. And this is why this is one of the reasons why women and men start to separate themselves, like disconnect in a marriage. It's because he's not being honest, and
Mm,
she can feel it. And when she feels that he's not being honest, she stops feeling safe.
mm,
When she stops feeling safe, she starts to shut down. And then what does he do? He gets defensive. And then before you know it, she doesn't want to deal with it either. And now we have a gap.
mm.
That's why I tell the man, like, yo, bro, it is on you. Well, what about her? I'm not saying that, bro. Like, just own your shit. Be honest. Take ownership of it. Change you. And if she doesn't change, then you're left with two decisions. One, you can leave. Two, you can shut the fuck up and stop complaining. If you're gonna stay and you're gonna tolerate it. So that's why men deflect. It's because they're afraid.
Mm. And it's interesting because I would say in areas where I'm not confident, there probably is that fear. And there is that fear. I talked about fear of abandonment in my life. I talked about fear of rejection, but I think another fear that I really haven't confronted yet is the fear of being seen and the fear of being truly known. And listen, imposter syndrome is very real. And because
Imposter syndrome is a phrase that therapy culture has made up that is actually just insecurity.
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. So insecure. So, and there are a lot of areas in my life where I am insecure. There are a lot of areas in my life where I am, and that's the thing. And this goes back to even childhood, right? I was taught, I was trained, I was bred, so to speak, to always put on a show, to always present a better version of
Yeah.
myself while neglecting the true version.
So
And that's what we
why don't
do.
why don't we stop doing that? Listen, dude, I started losing my hair at 18, right? So I lose my hair at 18, and I was covering it up with this powder.
Mm,
And I'll never forget, right? Like, I'll never forget, like, I was just like, fuck, dude, I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore. So I was like, I shaved my head, and then I went and got my head tattooed,
mm.
right? And I'll never forget, like, I felt free. And my wife goes, how does it feel? I go, well, the rest of the world is fucked because I've eliminated almost all of my insecurities. And the most dangerous man in the room is the man who just stands in truth, and he's not afraid.
Mm,
That's the man I'm hunting down in my life. So who am I hunting down right now? Dude, there's still a lot of doubt and insecurity in me around my only value comes as me producing. I don't understand why I'm so competitive with everything and nothing is ever going to be good enough. I'm tired of fucking living this way. And today I made a decision. I was like, bro, talking to God, I was like, I can't fucking do this anymore. Take this from me. I don't want this. Just let me be all of me.
yeah.
And so it's a willingness, Stephen, to be like, hey, I'm fucking done. I'm done hiding. I'm going to expose myself because you're either going to get exposed by the world or by a woman or by your bank account or something, or you can choose to expose yourself. Exposure is the greatest gift you can ever have. And so I'm on this end of the spectrum. I'm going to
Mm.
expose the shit out of myself so nobody else can.
That's probably why that scene in 8 Mile is so powerful and why I think I've always loved it. Because I'm going to tell you everything that you're going to either attack me for. I'm going to just lay it all out. I'm just going to open myself up. And in all reality, right? If we go back to Genesis, and this is something that I reckon they were naked and they weren't ashamed. And yet
Huh.
and that's one of the biggest things. And it's not even just being naked physically, but it's being naked emotionally, being truly naked and I think and a confident Stephen has no shame. A confident and what I let me say that confident Stephen doesn't have that fear, is not ashamed. He's and I love what you said about standing in truth because I think that's at the very core of confidence is standing in truth because as men we can give ourselves over to lies. I've that's something that I've struggled with in is not standing in that truth.
Yep.
And either I'll tell myself lies or I'll make myself believe it or I'll present those lies, I'll present those facades to other people And at the core of it all is just my inability and my fear of truly being seen and being vulnerable. And whether that goes to fear of rejection, I can't say for sure, but I know I'm good at it. I'm good at defending and deflecting. So good at it.
So here's what I want to leave you with, because I gotta hop off to another call. I want to leave you with an assignment, Steven.
Go ahead.
I want you to think about the biggest lie that you're telling yourself, the thing that's holding you back. And I want you to get on Instagram or Facebook and go live and share it with the world.
It's a good challenge.
Free yourself.
Mm.
And I'm going to give you an example. My wife and I had a miscarriage a couple years ago. Sitting there being like, fuck, dude, like, this is hard. Like, nobody talks about this. Nobody preps you for it. I don't even really know how to deal with it. I'm sitting there in the morning just by myself, and I feel like this voice come over me, and felt like it was God being like, you need to talk about this. I was like, motherfucker, I don't want to talk about this. So what did I do? Opened my phone and I went live. And the title of it was How to Handle a Miscarriage as a Man. And I just shared my experience of what I was going through, how challenging it is, how my wife's body got to heal and she had some closure around it. But there's this emotional loop for me that is open as a man. There's no closure because you were connected to the idea. I go live for like 8 minutes, hit send, and it posts hundreds of messages. Thank you. Nobody talks about this. We had one. Bro, I'm still struggling with this. I have no idea to get over it. Your pain becomes your purpose. Your mess becomes your message, and your ability to speak truth out into the world, just like you're doing, is what's not only going to set you free, but it will free the souls of so many other people. So if you want to be the most confident version of you, set yourself free.
That's so good. Well, challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. So I'll make sure it's available, because that takes a lot of guts and a lot of balls to do.
So when are we going to do it?
I may do it tonight. Why wait? Why?
May do it tonight, or we're going to do it tonight?
This is why I have these conversations, because you challenge everything, and it's like, dude, why wait? So, okay, I'll accept your challenge, and I say I'll do it tonight.
What time? What time?
What time is it now? You're on Mountain Time, so it's almost 4 o'clock your time right now, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So it's 6 o'clock my time. I'm gonna shoot for probably 8 o'clock Eastern time.
So we'll have it up. You'll go live at 8?
Yeah, I'll go live at 8.
Cool. Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, and I appreciate the challenge. So challenge accepted. I work well under pressure, and the more pressure there is, I work well on it. And so challenge accepted.
And you should learn how to, if your men's group is not creating this for you, and you're not creating pressure for yourself, you need to find other men who will do that for you.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good. I appreciate this so much.
Thank you for having me on here. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, I appreciate it. Thanks so much. And we'll have to connect soon, and we'll share the progress.
Sounds good, brother. Good to see you.
All right, brother.